Roll call is next. I am Lynette Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell.
Here.
Amanda Cooper will not be here tonight. John Jennings.
Here.
Dwayne Gazinski.
Here.
Mary Smith. Here. Rich Barrows.
Here.
Wonderful. We do have a quorum. Agenda approval is next. I think we are at a point where we need to, roll call is next. I will be judge. Rob Connell.
Here.
I'll wait till I've done talking.
Don't interrupt. It's like they know what we're saying.
I think we are at a point where we need to.
Let it catch up.
Okay, no problem. That was a weird one.
Live stream.
Yeah,
Finding.
so, we've been talking, Mary Smith and I have been talking to Bridget, and there are enough corrections that need to be made to the minutes that we had on the agenda from our regular meeting of the 11th of March, that I think we should just pull that and, discuss at a later date. So delete that. And then we are going to add additional invited persons to the executive session. And that's going to be just adding the newly elected, board members and police judge to the executive session. Any other additions or corrections? Right, item 8. Oh, that's right. Okay, so we're deleting item 8 as well. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda dated April 8th, 2025 as amended. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 3 minutes to present any matter of interest and already on the agenda. Letters will be acknowledged but will not be read aloud. Anyone here for audience business? Anybody online that might be?
Online attendance.
Okay, all right. Seeing none, we will move on. We have the payables. And those payables are dated March 22nd through April 3rd, 2025. Any questions or comments on the payables? I'm going to ask Hugh, who we introduced at our last meeting, our new treasurer, to explain the items in municipal court.
For the municipal court section, it was mislabeled, getting the hang of the different GL codes and exactly what they are.
What page of line item is that?
First page, I think it's on
First
the
First page.
Right,
It is Blackwell Oil Company.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
the black
Yeah.
roll.
I don't know that the court dabbles in one.
Well,
That was not court costs.
no.
Another thing with those, the last one, 70-80 invoice, the sugar paint mask, reposable thing. That was a partial from the previous payables that got entered twice. Where you see balance to above that of 458. 458 is what we owe from that 70-80. But I didn't notice it or pick it up right away. But that's been voided. That'll be in your next batch of payables at the 22nd meeting. We go to the next section, administration. The second bold function supplies. With Jess Edwards. That's from the town admin meet and greet. So that wasn't an event, that was why that's under administration. That
Okay.
was nice, I think, for the meet and greet from Dennis community.
Okay. Any questions for Q on any of the other payables?
Can I ask on the ones that, where it says the date paid and that one, to Jess Edwards is one of them. There was another reimbursement
There was,
under the water fund for training. I know I had a question as to when those funds got dispersed. And so are those actually being held and then will be dispersed after we approve these payments?
yes.
Okay.
That happened on my.
Okay, thank you. That's okay, I just wanted to confirm, because I know there were some questions that I had involved some other staff and legal in that, so thank you.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the payables dated March 22nd to April 3rd. 2025.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the tables. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to our action items. First on our agenda is Sheriff's Department monthly report.
Good evening. In the packet that we handed out, the first item was the 911 response times for the month of January. I do have a request to get those for the month of March. They have not shown up yet. In the month of February, I'm sorry, there was 11 calls to 911 for calls for service in the town. The average time from time to dispatch to time on scene was 22 minutes, but of those 11 calls for service, seven of which I would not call an emergency call. There was a traffic hazard, a traffic complaint, a dog at large, leash law violation. If you take the 4 non-emergency calls out of service, the average response time comes right in at just over 6 minutes for response time to calls for service in the town, which I think is pretty reasonable for us, you know, so. I'm looking to see what March looks like. The March stats, there was 57 calls for service. Of those that they generated 1 criminal report, 5 traffic stops, 1 of which ended up being a citation. But my guys are out there doing the meet and greets, getting around town where they can, providing better service. A prime example was today for me driving in, as I was a couple miles out of town. The flock cameras alerted on a stolen plate. Okay, I'm a couple miles away, I'll roll in and lo and behold, I find the vehicle with a stolen plate. Plate didn't come back to the vehicle it should have been registered to. I got behind it, decided to flee westbound. For merely a stolen license plate, yes, odds are there's probably something else, warrants, stolen vehicle. Probably drugs, but that's just an assumption on my part, but merely for a stolen license plate, I'm not gonna endanger the public on the highway chasing them more than a reasonable distance, so. They continued west, and then fled from Silver Thorn PD as well, so. The flock system works and, you know, we are responding to those when we are in the area and those come up, so. That's a great system. Also in there, you'll see the daytime calls for service for the month of March. Right now, Thursday it's running high, but those also include calls for service at the jail or any informational reports countywide. Dispatch just labels those at 405 Argentine, which happens to be in your town, so that's where you'll see there's 208 calls for service for the month, but only 57 actually were responded to by patrol, so.
Okay.
Jail is that high of a number for us.
Okay.
Any questions?
Were you able to pull the data like on the top 5 types of calls? I know we just met last week and that's not on time, but.
And they continue to be the welfare checks, the follow-up calls, and then citizen assist, civil assist, that's us.
Okay.
Just reaching out, seeing what we can do to help people.
I saw on the commissioners meeting this last week that, your department is actually looking to invest in license plate readers.
Yeah, So it was one of our budget items, coming into 2025. To, utilize a license plate reader, we had quotes from Block and one other. Due to the county's budget concerns, that was the line item that was cut. But we, did get approval by the commission to submit for a DOLA grant, Department of Local Affairs grant. It's right within the wheelhouse of what we expect them to approve, but it's still up to them, so.
Did our apparatus help?
Absolutely, yeah, being able to show the usefulness of the stats and,
Good.
and that the commissioners were right on board talking alternate funding, so.
And this is for countywide?
Countywide, the quote that was submitted will give the county 14, where we had originally budgeted for 6, so.
Nice.
And the 6 got cut, so
That's huge.
it will give us better access, better data to help deploy the deputies where needed, and it's a great tool. I could say I literally chased bad guys out of Georgetown today.
Nice.
So,
So are you looking at the same manufacturer, so it will integrate with our system? or you-
yes,
Again, okay.
that's the goal, depending on what DOLA approves, if they approve it as is, it will be the Flock system. They're integratable, shareable across the state. We get information from the Fraser Winter Park.
But
Ones, Silverthorne has them as well, and Idaho Springs had one installed last week, and a second one will be in place here in the next month. It's just on CDOT right away, so there's a little bit of lag time. So, it's a growing, useful, powerful tool.
and there's this block also.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
When it happens like this morning, does that get forwarded to the highway patrol to look for that person on the road?
It does,
So they don't get away.
so yeah, we share, information.
Your expression just said it all.
We share information, we don't like people running from us, what the nature of cops is to chase bad guys, we like to catch bad guys. My detective's already done some legwork, we know already that they've swapped plates, but that helped us identify some suspects, so. Hopefully that gives us some leads, but we did share immediately with Summit County. They were looking for it, it turned around, came back later in the day, unfortunately, I was in a meeting at that time, otherwise I probably might have gone out looking again, but, so we do utilize the full system, share with the partners, so we can identify who might have done it, so. Go ideally, we like curbing crime, so, does that mean we catch all of them? No. So.
Like you said, endangering lives is not worth it.
No, right.
It's a risk benefit analysis, so. Benefit of catching a guy who's no license plate, versus endangering other others. On the surface, not worth it. Reality, there's probably other crimes attached to it, but without evidence of that, it really limits that.
Zeal to go after him.
Yep.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Straley? Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
report, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for all you're doing for the town.
Certainly.
Thanks very much. Next we have public hearing and consideration of Sasha's at the Alpine liquor license. This is, we are convening as the liquor license authority?
Yep.
Okay,
Convene
So-
given time.
Hold on,
Give
take
it
that hat
time.
off. What's that?
given time is 6:15 PM. And who's presenting on this one?
Bridget and I can probably, share it, this is the application for a new license through, and, when there's a new license, as the board well knows, the two standards are, is the licensee of good moral character, and is there a need and desire for, liquor license liquidity? So, because the hearing is open, let me do what I usually do, is make a little record around what those things. On again, needs and desires, this is a location that was presently or previously licensed there, and that license expired, is that We're just saying yes, you know, we gotta say yes, it's not on our hearing record. That always checks the box for needs and desires, you know, where there's been a previous license in that location. So then we need to make a record about, criminal character. Did we send this application for fingerprints, and did the sheriff's office review the criminal record on the, or criminal history on the applicant?
Yes, they did, both applicants got, so Sasha and her husband both got background checks through the state approved agency because the state does the final approval of liquor license. They did that, I alerted the fire station and they corresponded with Sasha and made the appropriate adjustments to the building. Talked with Asia, she gave it her okay, and also corresponded with the police department, and they have also given their okay, but nothing, no red flags from any of the appropriate parties in town.
Terrific, terrific. Is the applicant here?
They,
Okay, fine.
I emailed her earlier today, she has sick kids at home, so she wanted to be here, but has the kiddos to take care of.
That's not a requirement, that they be here, as long as we're able to make the very short record we just made on needs and desires and on good moral character. So we certainly take questions from the board, if there are any questions from the board on this application, we have to answer them.
I have no questions. I know Sasha, I've known her since she was a wee tiny infant. So,
And it's public hearing, we take public testimony on
yes,
whether there should be a new liquor license at this location. So now's the time for that.
yep.
I don't have anything.
General consensus.
You know
that
Sasha longer than me.
Yeah, general consensus in town is that we need the Alpine back open and functioning, and this is part of it.
Sure.
So,
I came as a concerned neighbor
Public
and
goods should testify.
I wanna make a statement that I think there's a need and want to have this liquor license in the state.
okay, and state the name, state your
Mike,
name.
I'll get it at 603 Burnell Street.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's important to have a little evidence on that.
Sure.
So I'm grateful, thank you.
Yeah. Any other public testimony? Public comment on this? Okay. Any board?
I'm all for it.
Okay,
The post public
All right.
hearing motions in order.
go ahead and close the public hearing. It is now 6:19 PM. And I would entertain a motion.
All right, I move to approve the liquor license for Sasha's at the Alpine.
I'll second it.
Hey.
Rob?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was a unanimous approval. Thank you.
Can I ask a clerical or technical question? Jerry, I don't know if you've got the summary sheet in front of us. It indicates
Yep.
the, you know, the actual application. In the past, I believe we received the application in our packets. And has this changed?
I was going to distribute it. I was gonna do it at the meeting and collect them, if you had to do that, but there's enough private information in the application, we didn't want to put it in the packet.
I understand that, but so this is, it hasn't changed though. Typically, we've gotten the application. And, or has that changed and now we are going to keep that under a different level?
Well, it's really kind of a matter of local practice. I'll say that communities I represent, some put that in the packet, some just do this. And it's perfectly fine, it's up to you. If we're to put the materials in the packet, in the jurisdictions that I represent that do that, we do have to go through the materials to make sure there isn't personal identification, personal information, and we have to do some redacting. Much of the time, that's not a good use of the staff's time or your time, but it is the board's right to see the application. I always look for the lease or the ownership to make sure there's the right to sell liquor on the premises. It's one of the requirements. But that can be a discussion of the board, what the board as a whole wants to see in support of liquor license application.
Well, so this is my concern. that information has already been shared with us as a public document at our last meeting. And so if we are trying to keep it confidential, I would ask that we immediately remove it from our previous agenda that is public on our website to protect the confidential information that we are addressing in the summary paragraph.
That's fine too.
So,
But we've really got two things going on here. I guess the starting point for me is, what does the board want to have in its packets? And we can have more information than just redact. That way, that addresses your question number two, which is once it's been redacted, then it's fine to be, available to the public. And I don't have a strong feeling about, some boards really want to see that stuff, others really don't want to, and would rather just get the staff report, and I do not care.
I'm fine not seeing the actual packet, but I would like a summary of the information that it addresses, and then that way it doesn't have to be redacted page by page by page. You know, you can answer the same questions or whatever that you bring up. My concern goes further than that though, because I'm afraid that if we were trying to respect the confidentiality of the information, it's out there. So, quick, let's do something about it.
Do we need to make a motion to direct staff?
No, staff clearly has their direction. It's also useful, we'll just pump up the, because I think that's maybe the most effective for the board is to have a more robust staff report. Then you've got it all in a few pages, and it's the stuff you really need to know, and it isn't 10 pages of the articles of incorporation of the LLC that's applying for the, I don't read that stuff. But then it's the stuff you really need to know, but we can pump up the report and we'll look at what's online now and correct it.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, okay. All right. Next, we have public hearing and consideration of budget amendment resolution number 7, series 2025. And I'll read the title of the resolution. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, amending the 2025 budget to add Fund 33, Foster's Place Fund, and creating a revenue and expenditure budget for it. Who wants to take that? Okay, thank you, Greg.
This, as I explained in the memo, this was discussed at the time the budget was put together, but it was not approved at that time. And because we have now received the $18,000 donation to provide funding to these efforts, we needed a place to put it. And it didn't make sense to put it in the general fund because it's very limited in its scope. And so the best way to do this is to create a special revenue fund showing that that revenue came in, that it's tied to a specific purpose, and that all money that is charged to that fund is also charged to the specific purpose of maintaining this. The Foster's Place. So that's what this is for, is to create that fund and establish a budget for it. I think I just divided the entire budget by the same percentages we have in the parks budget. So I used the $18,000 number and divided it by the same percents. I didn't know how to do it other than that, it's just a guess at this point because it's a brand new fund.
The folks that give us the donation, did they put any requirements, like how much would be used for maintenance or such when they made that donation?
It was really, like, the overview of the whole thing was, they came to the Parks and Rec meeting. What they said was that this was for the upkeep and maintenance of that structure. And that was really where that money was supposed to be used.
And I think before we go too much further, because this is second reading
Oh,
and
sorry.
it was properly noticed, Greg looked into that. This is also a public hearing, so let me go ahead and open the public hearing. It is 6:26 p.m. And, before we take any further board discussion, we'll ask for public comment if anyone has any. In the room, I'm not seeing anything online. Anybody joined us?
Did anybody walk through there? Just to see.
Let's go play.
Bridget, anybody online?
No.
Okay, not yet. Okay. So public comment and public hearing is now closed. It's 6:27. Okay. Speak up, board, if you wish. Anybody?
Do this on first reading last time, because we separated the two. This resolution was partnered with the,
Yeah, and I told them about it. And this resolution now just reflects adding Fund 33, and this is all that was advertised or in the paper, so the notice in the paper does not include a mention of the parks, and that's why that's later in the agenda.
Parks employees.
Sure.
right, I just didn't know if we really officially acted on the first reading since.
Well, there is no first reading, this is the resolution.
Tabled it and stuff.
So all you did at the last meeting was set the public hearing.
Okay.
So this could potentially be, Robin, I'll ask you this could potentially be used towards replacement of equipment as part of that maintenance and.
Potentially, sure.
So we don't necessarily want it all going towards salaries and wages, or I wouldn't want our parks
I don't
employees.
think this has anything to do with salaries and wages.
Well, the budget amendment does.
It does, on the second page.
So 14,950 of it goes to
Oh,
employee
Is
funds.
that okay with Kim and Barrett?
Well,
They're
okay,
the ones going to do the maintenance.
so
Oh, okay, well, then,
You-
there
you-
you go, okay.
a lot of the maintenance cost involved is the labor.
Okay, got it,
And because it's being provided in-house,
yes,
it can be figured out this way.
no, I understand, I'm sorry.
And
That's okay.
it doesn't mean that it's going to cost all this.
No, of
If
course.
charging things is based specifically on need of this facility, so
Right,
if there is nothing to do in terms of maintenance, they won't do anything.
yeah, of course.
And right now, the maintenance general is really aimed at if you want to, start looking at some more major things, you can really stick that away every year because it is a dedicated fund. This money does not get mixed with anything else. If at the end of the year, we're not spending any employee time or considerably less, that will help
The
direct
carryover.
where the next budget goes.
Right,
At this point, though, it's really just a shot in the dark. I honestly don't know how.
well, this is the premier year, you know, it's the primary year, so you don't have any history.
Right.
But you have a couple of big special events where they're gonna be required to do a lot of fix up maintenance and all that kind of.
Well, and it gets a lot of wear and tear. So for example, under,
Great
Just-
part.
you could narrow your focus to the wear and tear of the surface. Right under like the tire swing or whatever other feature and just, patch that. Or at some point, it may need a complete resurfacing and which is gonna be much bigger dollar amount. And so you're gonna have to maybe save up 2 years worth, who knows?
I just wanted to make sure we honored the folks that gave us the money
Yeah.
for the fire.
Yeah.
Of course.
But they
And that-
gave us this money, but this was a one-time thing, this is going to be an
I think it's a reoccurring thing.
5 years. It's 18,000 is the plan each year for 5 years.
Yeah.
So we should be creating a fund within the fund so that when we do have a heftier expense, So that it isn't, so, I mean, so this will obviously roll over into next year, so if we don't use it, then they're gonna have 36,000 next year.
Correct. Yep.
Which obviously we're not spending on staff time, or we're hoping we're not. But if all of a sudden a big chunk of change comes out because a piece of equipment has to be replaced, shouldn't there be, almost like a, capital improvement line
Well,
on there?
that's really what.
I guess the whole thing is a capital improvement.
But
Not if you're using it for salary.
exactly,
That's true.
But we're not gonna have people just standing there doing nothing.
Well, then again, these salaries are going to capital improvement. So I mean,
Well, they're going to
Maintenance.
maybe it's.
Maintenance.
But if there isn't a need to do this much maintenance by employees, this money will stay here and it will be turned over next year, you can something or something else. Just because it's in the budget does not mean it's going to be spent.
So we're good stewards, supposed to not touch it.
Well, you will, that's needed. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just mentioned some things that maybe they will have to spend time fixing up that.
and it's earmarked for Foster's place, so it can't be
All over.
anywhere else.
Right.
It's just here,
It's just there.
Okay, so that we can see.
Right,
no.
No.
yeah, or the fountain, or the fence.
Yeah. Yes, we have a comment. Yeah,
I don't get out.
okay.
It's not my ward.
We're using the money,
Ward one.
saving some of the money so that when a piece of equipment needs to be replaced, it's there. And I don't anticipate that our town park staff is going to be using this all on staff time, but there's no individual line for equipment per se, thank you, capital, and that isn't just maintenance, that's, and so I just want us to be conscious of this. We discussed this a couple of months ago in the budget, we obviously haven't remembered every detail of that, which means we're probably not gonna remember every detail again in the fall when we do this again, so.
But you'll have history by fall.
Yeah, yeah.
If this.
Take good note.
At least by then, we'll have some experience, you're right, I mean, this is kind of our, again.
Take careful notes.
So, okay,
But if you put it all the capital improvement, which you could do, then you can't do anything unless you're in charge of doing it.
No, and I don't want to put it all in capital, I just don't want to ignore the fact that some of this should be going into capital, because in 5 years, that's a lot of wear and tear and playtime, which is good. And something's gonna need to be replaced. And I just want us to have that money from this fund, which was established for that purpose.
all right. Is there any further discussion on this one? Okay, if not, there is a suggested motion in the packet.
I'll move to adopt the resolution number 7, series 2025, which establishes Fund 33, Foster's Place Fund, and sets a budget for the new fund, for the new fund.
Is there a second?
So,
That was John Jennings. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And my apologies, I was looking at public hearing is in our next item, so scratch that for the previous.
There was a requirement.
For a
It just
hearing.
wasn't there.
Oh, that's right, public hearing, never mind, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
You were correct.
just
What time was that public hearing?
at 6:27 PM is when I closed public comment. 26 was open and closed. Okay. So we'll be doing the same, only I'll do it right up front. Okay, this is public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 2, series 2025. This is Business Promotion Commission Code. And this is an ordinance amending section 5.04.110 of the Georgetown Municipal Code concerning the Business Promotion Commission. And we'll open public hearing at 6:36. And who wants to do the intro on this one?
I'm the staff report, this is second reading, and, in between first and second reading, there was a request to add some things to this ordinance, which has been done. There's some recommendations, I think, that came in, from Craig Hansen, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, I worked through those, I have them in my hand. And, those are reflected now in the, either the strike through or the all caps. So strike through, taking stuff out, all caps, adding things. You'll notice that where, an amendment to 5.4110, D3 takes place. I don't show you all the material in between D1 and D3 because it's a page and it's not being changed. So that's why we use liberal use of the yield to move you along. I believe that the change from first, or the changes that were addressed at first reading and that were in the version of first reading were in section 2 on right on the first page, talking about membership, and the bottom of the first page and top of the second. They kind of clean things up a little bit, sort of shortened it. But then we've got this new material on absenteeism as a standard for being removed from the commission, kind of replacing the 60% of the regular meetings. And then you've got a definition of absenteeism, failure to attend more than 3 consecutive board meetings, and some other smaller changes. Happy to answer any questions, but that's the ordinance. Public hearing, take public comment, and then we'd be happy to take questions from the board and the staff.
So, any public comment?
Would you be able to read that, what the changes are into that ordinance? I don't have a copy of that ordinance.
We can, it's
Too long.
it's not bad. I can do a real quick version. If you don't mind me kind of doing your ellipses as we go, or do you want to look at whatever you like?
Bridget's got an extra copy.
So I can summarize, will that be helpful? Let's summarize. The first change is to the when terms commence. And that change eliminates a lot of old stuff that talked about, terms commencing in 1991. 1991's 30 years ago, so we don't need that anymore. So that went away. The second change, the bottom of the first page, top of the second, addresses appointments made by the board to fill expiring terms. And the key there is that the change is to merely say license, you have to be a business license holder, and you can't be in default of payment of your business license fee or promotion assessment. We don't want people on the business promotions commission who are in default of their fees. It does take out the recommendation of holders of current business licenses and really leaves it exclusively up to the board to fill vacancies. Already talked about the removal of a board member for failure to attend meetings and turning that into this absenteeism 3 consecutive. Then at the end, there's a couple of changes to the duties of the board or of the commission. Make recommendation to the town administrator board of selectmen, and make recommendation to collaborate with, and then was added entities, including the county and the regional organization. So those are the changes.
Good.
Yep,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
you got it.
So, any other public comment? No. In the room? Anybody online? Nada. Okay, then I will close public comment, 6:40 p.m. Okay, reception from the board. Okay. Anybody?
And these were all recommended by the business promotion, commission, volunteers, correct?
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the second reading of ordinance 2, series 2025, which amends the portion of the business promotion meeting code. I'm sorry. Business Promotion Committee Code
Actually, it should be commission, not committee.
Commission.
Mhm.
Thoughts
Okay, you're right.
regarding how the board members are appointed?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, next we have resolution number 8, series 2025. To add town treasurer Kenneth H. Wilcox to accounts.
If I could make a brief comment,
Let me go ahead and read the title of the reso and then, yeah. This is resolution number 8, series 2025, a resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, approving signature authority for certain town financial matters and accounts. All right, go ahead.
So I did go speak with Evergreen National Bank about this, about whether or not the treasurer prior had been a signer on the account. They were set up as a signer on the account. We were not functionally using our treasurer as a signer, but they were a signer on the account. I checked them to see if there were other statuses that we might be able to use, and I was informed that there's a status for Evergreen National Bank called a sub-user. It would still allow our treasurer to do transfers, ACH, bill pay, access our accounts, but they would not be a signer. So if we wanted to amend that language to make you a sub-user for Evergreen National Bank, we could do that. For the other banks, we don't write checks from those banks typically, so. Okay, that's it.
Okay,
I think the sub-user offers a protection to our treasurer and to us. So that there's that step of checks and balances, not checks as in signing checks, but to make sure that the funds are being dispersed correctly.
Yeah.
And I know,
think that's a good way.
yeah.
It's worked well for us over the years.
Yeah, let's not.
well, and the reason I questioned it was because in my recollection, Mary Sims had not been signing checks. And I guess I always thought that that was because the auditors kind of eased us in that direction because we are so small. We don't have somebody actually like a deputy financial person to kind of do a monthly audit. I mean, that falls to the board, and that's why we normally don't have the same person writing the checks actually signing them. So if sub-user is more acceptable, so yeah, but I think we can always find two signers. Yeah, we can always find two signers for the checks when checks need to be signed.
He asked me for my autograph today.
Okay.
And a rubber
I
stamp.
thought it was famous for just. 15 seconds.
Then we need to change the wording on section 1 of the resolution. Because then that will be, he's not really signing on behalf of the town. We need to change the language on that.
Requires to be a sub-user.
How should that read, Jerry?
Well, if the idea is the board wishes to authorize treasurer to sign as a sub-user with respect to the equity of the account. I'm not sure quite what you're wanting to do.
Rather than saying they're authorized as a signer on the account, they are authorized to be a sub-user.
Okay,
How would you word
With-
that?
Just be a sub-user. Authorized to be a sub-user on behalf of.
you probably want to say access the accounts of the town, just in a given institution or all occasion.
The only checks we really write are from Evergreen National Bank. So I'm not sure it matters as much for the other institutions. The sub-user is specific to Evergreen National Bank.
So do you have the definition that from Evergreen National Bank that that specifies that language, because that would be easier to incorporate their definition into our
That's a good point.
Not
resolution.
written down, that was a conversation I had.
No, I think
That's
we
use
did
that
that.
words.
Table this and clean it up a little bit.
I think the town attorney can just put it up afterwards.
Couldn't we direct the town attorney to
Yeah.
make the appropriate action?
Yeah, I think if you want to sort of get it done today and, not have to bring it back, then proper motion be, approve resolution number 8 series 2025 and direct the town attorney to, insert, language appropriate to authorize, the treasurer as a sub-user of the town's, of the necessary town accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Sorry, but
go ahead.
Keisha, if you'll make sure I get that material, because otherwise I'm just kind of flaming here, because at the last minute to hear this, it's kind of tough for me to come up with a magic word. But if you give me that material, I'm sure I can fix it.
Okay, all right. And by saying in the appropriate account, that doesn't just apply to Evergreen National Bank, that would
That's why
apply to
appropriate
all.
accounts is
Exactly,
intentionally general.
that's what I was picking up on, but I just wanted to confirm.
There you go.
Yep. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 8, series 2025, with the changes discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Greg. All right, next we have DB Networks contract. And Keisha, is that you?
Yeah, talk about that. So DB Networks is a company that manages our phone lines. So when you call us and we have the phone message and get all of our lines, that's DB Networks. They offered us a renewal. We actually did an audit and deleted a number of phone lines that we were no longer using, including the boardroom phone we've been paying for some time. And we are also adding an additional line. Right now, you can call 3 of us at the same time. And this proposal has 4 lines because we discovered that actually people are getting a busy signal pretty often from us. Like apparently 3 of us are on the phone relatively often. According to their the information they have on their website. So this proposal is a little bit less than what we've been paying, smaller line or smaller number of users, but more lines so that those users can all call some kind of the correct line.
And is this an annual amount?
They typically offer us a 3-year contract. We did ask them for a 1-year in this case, and so they did give us a 1-year contract.
Okay,
Josh is very helpful. We've worked with them for a very long time.
Is the price pretty much a third of what 3-year contract would have been then? I mean, is it?
It was an annual price,
Oh, okay.
for 3 years.
Oh, okay, so they, okay. Okay. Thanks.
great. The only, excuse me, suggestion I would make would be to quote the amount, in the amount of not to exceed $232
$0.95.
correct. Let me make the motion.
I'll move to approve the maintenance and support contract with DB Networks not to exceed $232.95. Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay, next we have, we need to set a public hearing for resolution number 9. And this is the general fund, budget amendment for parks for the second full-time employee. Greg? Okay.
I researched this as requested by the board. And I also found that the original language for the sales tax for the parks, where it came out, I found resolution 12, 2018. So you have the language here that is exactly what was in the ballot that was approved. So I just wanted to make sure you get a copy of that and you can reference it. I didn't understand the spreadsheet that we are provided by the Parks Board, and so I talked to Rep. Ruther on the phone, and the changes they were suggesting only came to $5,000, so that's not very far to what the cost of the additional employee is. But at the same time, last year, the parks budget was $652,000, and they spent $49,468. So there's a big chunk of the cash balance at the end of 2024 that was there because of parks. And that could be used for that. The other thing is that small amount of savings, and the amount that's needed to be covered now is $51,501. So hopefully these answer the questions that you raised at the last meeting or two. And if you have any more, then more than willing to research them a little bit and hopefully get them on the agenda. That means they will be here, so
Right.
that's a little bit more of a challenge, but I will do whatever you want to do with this. If you don't feel that it's right yet to schedule the public hearing and move this issue forward, please let me know and I'll look into some.
One issue I had with what you've got in the line items is cutting. I don't mind the cutting of the trees budget, but I don't know, can we really reduce the water, sewer and Sanilex by $3,000 and still get by?
I think the number was 15. So it's not a huge reduction.
I realize that, but you know, we're
I
a lot more use.
I honestly don't know, this is in there by recommendation of the Parks. Board.
Okay.
So
I would,
yeah,
I would question.
yeah, I don't blame you,
Yeah.
because it's, the number was in the budget for a reason, and,
Would it make sense to get Beth in the room and talk to her and try to work this out? with her?
Well, or find someplace else to get that 3,000.
And I'm sure they have to have information from these Sanilet companies as to,
Or used last year and such.
Right.
right, and we're trying to encourage, a greater population to come to Georgetown, and our parks are, I mean, we all know City Park is huge. So we want to be able to
No, you're
provide
right,
for
you're
that.
absolutely right.
We don't want them overflowing.
No, it's just, come to Georgetown, just go to the bathroom somewhere else, I think that's a horrible tax. No, we ought to definitely pay for what we need to pay for there. I just wonder if there's some place else that we could trim.
And I think there probably is.
And I wonder if we could just maybe work that out,
well,
a separate.
and you can do that from a management perspective. Line items are not locked in. So
No, but
they are in there for planning purposes. If you want to talk to them about dropping something else, their proposal is to cut $5,000 out of this budget. If you think that the Sanilex need the full budget that's there, work out with them what other things can be cut, because that doesn't require a budget amendment.
Right. I think that's a kind of a necessary thing. It's kind of like, if you're looking to budget something on your car, don't do it in brakes, kind of thing. Just saying, this is along those lines.
We rely on you, Rob.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes. So this is to set a public hearing and it's by resolution, so it just needs to be noticed. And that just
One thing
needs
you might want
by
to do
the 22nd.
we could invite Beth to show up at the public hearing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that?
True, yeah.
Did you actually say that? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. But I want. I would. Asking her to be there at the public hearing also implies more upfront work, and that's where I was headed, was, you know, take another stab at it and find out where you can take that out of that, you know, find that 5,000
Sure.
or at least the 3,000 to 5.
And it's
Somewhere
like they blow
else.
through the budget and then some, you know, it's like, there's always some leftovers, so I gotta believe that there's some wiggle room somewhere.
But I'd rather kick it back, I think.
No, I agree.
Before we're ready for even.
I don't wanna approve this, I gotta, you know, do some more research.
Yeah, I'm not quite 100% there yet.
So you want to table,
Yeah.
Can we?
I make a motion to table this.
Second.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table this. To a future date. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Speaking of eyes, I was in the bachelor's. Board or. You have to wait.
No,
Okay, number 8 was deleted. So we move on from that. And this is, discussion of the review of the sheriff's IGA.
And the reason I put this on here is you had a plan to do this before the end of the contract.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to
Thanks for.
bring it back and put it on the table so that we dedicate some time to actually having that discussion with the sheriff, deciding whether, you know, how the contract is gone, whether you want to extend it at this point. One of the things we talked about, you know, is if the town's gonna be short-term contracts, the chances of getting more officers is pretty low. If I was managing that budget, I sure wouldn't hire employees and tell them we've got 3 months and we'll probably let you go after that. That really is not, we need to get a dedicated employee.
Well, and there was some discussion at the Board of County Commissioners meeting last week. Sheriff Harris gave an update to the board, and included in that update was how are things going in Georgetown, and he reported that things are going well, but he reiterated that same sentiment that you don't start adding staff to fill out staffing for Georgetown until you're certain that that's going to continue. And you also, I would like, if we're going to continue it, to renegotiate for just straight wages rather than paying time and a half for all services that we get. The commissioners were concerned that the county is getting sufficient repayment or payment for the services they're providing to cover the costs, and they're getting time and a half. So yes, they are getting sufficient at this point. They also expressed a hesitancy to back off, and if we as a town decided to repopulate the police department and only got as far as the chief and didn't have other officers to fill out the department, they would feel uncomfortable, because then when the chief's not available, they're filling in and providing that service without actually getting reimbursed for the service at that point. So they're hesitant to encourage us to just hire a chief and then see how things go and drop the IGA. So I'm just letting you know what the what the report contained, so.
Last week Amanda and I and Gordon met with, Lieutenant Straley and got the road. And and had discussed some of the statistics that they had provided to us tonight about, you know, the March statistics and everything, and talking about, you know, the fact that the IDA is coming up and even if we go ahead and we do need to start, you know, having these discussions, and we've also said that we need to have these discussions with our new board. And, you know, to pursue this. One of the concerns is that, you know, we're gonna be hitting summer, and so the allocated time that they give us now, whether it's a straight time or time and a half, we may need more than that. We may feel we need more, or they may be providing more just because of, you know, sort of calls for service and everything. So, and even if we go back to our own department, it's not gonna happen like that, and so we would have to have time to put that into place. So, you know, I agree. We're just kind of scratching the surface of this one, but we need to dig into the hot and heavy. Perhaps even to start at our next meeting and to continue into how we can expand even that temporary IGA or 6-month IGA, that's what it is. And code enforcement issues continue to come up. From our point of view, they had actually received an official code enforcement call, whatever you want to call it, you know, complaint that they were starting to investigate that was here in Georgetown. So we can't just keep ignoring some of our needs. And so maybe that's even expanding, you know, the terms of the contract for the next. So,
To just include something other than policing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think we need to get some more community input, and I don't know, you know, he's doing a meeting, I don't know if it's once a month, the sheriff is called off the cuff. But I think we need some Georgetown community input on that before we make any decisions, and then, also that gives us some direction in negotiations, whether it should be a 6-month or 12-month or whatever. There's a lot of things being worked out, use of cars, license plate readers, all that, those type of things are benefiting the sheriff's department right now. And those are chips in the negotiations.
And not that this should influence it, but just to remind everyone, our warranty period with KRW expires in August. So we have to keep that in mind as to however we think we're going to act or not act on that as we prepare to extend our IGA with the county. So PBB, stay tuned.
I noticed that the term of the IGA is terminated on May 1st. I know you all know that. So what we might want on the staff level to do is have a form of motion and extension motion available for you to act on the next meeting.
So it wasn't for 6 months, it was.
Unless the earlier terminated, it shall terminate on May 1st.
Okay,
Because I think it's gonna
2025.
start in December.
Yeah.
right,
It's a May, December romance.
but that's still 5 months rather than 6.
For whatever reason,
It would just.
you
Yeah.
agreed to May 1st.
Okay,
So your next, if you
we're
want to,
very nearly done.
I assume you want to continue to have
Yeah.
coverage while you're discussing it.
Right,
But we as staff would be prepared to have a very short extension for blank months that you can act on, that can get over to the county and keep it going. Or you could add to that extension document to such other services as you liked. It might be well for there to be some outreach to the sheriff's office in between now and April 22nd to make sure that,
it's agreeable to them.
yeah.
Well, and the
Yeah.
commissioners come into play as well.
Exactly.
So- Yeah,
If the board doesn't disagree, I think we at least need to reach out to sheriff's office, say, it's May 1st, right? Can we be prepared on April 22nd to talk about some form of extension, which might just be 2 more months and let's worry about it later, or it might be 6 months and let's add some functions, but that's your choice, obviously. But I want to make sure I'm prepared as staff that you're not left with the agreement expiring.
So I'd like to, though, to ask if we're all interested in even starting on the 22nd or whatever, to have a work session that we're having these conversations, because even if we extend it into June, and now we're talking potential more services, and they also openly admitted that, you know, during the summer, they have staffing issues too. So we can ask, it doesn't necessarily mean we get, they're not gonna ignore us, you know, they respond, but it might not be where they're actually here in town. But our meetings of only twice a month doesn't give us a lot of time to be able to iron this out, and I hate to, you know, throw you into the fire here, Miss almost police judge, but, we need to start figuring out what we're gonna do here and take some quick action steps, because otherwise it's gonna be August and, you know, so.
Or it'll be July and we can't, and, you know.
Yeah, we can't, and that doesn't give us enough time to, you know, so. Just a thought.
Good, no, well, that's a good
Continue
idea.
like a.
When do you wanna do it?
Before the
I'm just thinking,
22nd.
if we start having the conversation and see what everyone is concerned about, and see what our new board is concerned about, and so we can start directing our new staff to start, you know, working with the county and either expanding the IGA or expanding, you know, the services on that IGA. It's gonna be a great opportunity for our new town administrator to really sink his teeth into it, you know, so.
Do we invite someone, the sheriff or someone that he designates to that work session, so we get some input that way, or just, is this just the?
Well, okay,
That's what we want, yeah.
so are we talking? I mean, it would seem to me, if you have an existing IGA, if you don't tweak very much and you just extend what you've got, it makes it simpler for, unless there's something really dysfunctional about it. It seems like it's easier to just say, let's extend the existing one for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, you know, whatever gives you enough time to actually work through the nitty gritty of renegotiating specific terms. Does that make sense?
I think
Or
we need to extend the current IGA for a month or two, and in that time frame, we need to decide, do we want to expand services for the new IGA? Or what is our plan, our ultimate plan, and what steps are we gonna take? And again, meeting only twice a month doesn't give us enough time to do that. So yes, I would love for us at the regular meeting to be able to sign off and say, we're ready for an extension through June. And let's get our act together and hear what everyone wants.
Well, so we've got really, we ought to get a work session together and we ought to probably schedule that tonight.
I say schedule a work session for the next meeting, but after the next meeting, not before, because then we get new people sworn in.
The other thing is that if you wanted to extend an IGA, it would be a lot simpler for the sheriff to accept something that's sort of status quo. If you all of a sudden start including additional services, you know, it might be a lot more complicated and take more time. What I'm suggesting is that further motivates us to try to get a police department together or to act on getting a KRW to start that search again.
or at least.
But it's not too gargantuan a task to not only get the police department, but maybe community services and code
But
enforcement.
so if we extend this, if this current IGA expires what, May 1?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just look at that one, the existing one.
Right.
We want to extend that, say, till June 30th.
Sure.
We want to be ready next meeting, April 22nd, for that agreement to go out.
Okay.
But at the same time, let's start talking about what the new IGA looks like, or the next steps, whatever that is.
Whatever.
Yeah, or enhancing it, or adding services, or bringing back our own municipal.
Because I think you're looking for more public feedback too, on whether we stay with the sheriff or whether we bring back our own department. And the public needs to understand how long bringing back our own department would actually take. It means keeping an IGA with the sheriff's department quite a bit longer.
Right.
And the realities of the cost that it's gonna take to have 3 officers that can cover most of the town, most of the time. So I think that that reality is gonna weigh very heavily on what our budget looks like. We're not gonna be able to hire folks at $65,000 or $70,000 to work in the policing, so I'm not doing this. They can't afford it.
To give our new board members the opportunity to catch up and to understand. And so we're not making decisions on that work session, but we're starting
We're
with
just taking,
conversation.
tackling the IGA.
Yeah,
Very good.
No, I just wanna make sure that, but I just don't wanna overcomplicate things so that it makes it hard for the sheriff to work with us.
yeah, to say yes.
I'm inclined to suggest two things. We, the staff, and I will prepare, an amendment to the IGA extending for 2 months and have that in your packet, so you can just do that. And because you'll have new board members sworn in either before or at the beginning of the next meeting, you could actually, by consensus direct that there be a study session on this at the conclusion of that meeting. We can look at how long that agenda is. But, there's no magic in having a study session at 4 o'clock versus one at the end of the meeting, I don't think, because I'm a night guy.
Yes, we'll need to pass the candy.
Yeah.
The regular session early the next time on the 22nd, so that we can swear in our new members and then
Start talking.
adjourn, recess, whatever,
Sure.
do the work session first, just talk about the police stuff. And then go back into our regular meeting at 6 o'clock and do the business, but at least they're sworn in so that they have an official say. I mean,
Yeah, you can certainly do that. You can do it one of two ways. There's no requirement that they take the oath in the meeting. Some of my cities, they go down to the clerk's office on a random Thursday and they take their oath and they're good. The minute they take their oath, their term has begun. So we can certainly suggest, you can set a study session now for 4 o'clock, 4:30 on the 22nd. We can just ensure that the members that need to be sworn in, including the re-elected members, get that done in the clerk's office in between now and the 22nd. New terms will have started. They'll be able to participate fully in the study session, so you won't have to mess around with the regular starting time of a regular meeting, which you could do. You take a motion, we post a special notice, the meeting's gonna start at 4 o'clock, which that's a lot of hassle that you don't need to have, because you have control here.
I just want it to be official so that we can just dig in.
Yeah, so for officialness, you can take a motion to set a study session to commence at X time on the 22nd for the purpose of discussing law enforcement, IGA and related matters. And meanwhile, we the staff will make sure that folks that need to take oaths get them taken.
Or they get
22nd.
taken just before the.
Yeah, they can, as long as they take an oath, doesn't have to be in a public meeting, it's take an oath, and we have a little record of that. Then their terms will start and they can sit, then they get to sit up here.
They can walk in 10 minutes earlier for the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but if you do want to set that study session, probably the clerk and staff would want to know, so that we can post notice of the study session.
Are we good with that?
Yeah, we say at 4:30 because we're gonna want to talk about it.
Or gives a little bit more time.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, you don't care about that,
Really?
Okay. Jim, you have questions?
So I have a comment. One of the things that I'm thinking about that was swearing in is that, is this something the public can come view?
Sure, yeah,
Exactly.
if you do it.
So, and I know that Alex Sassoon, for example, can't be here at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
On the 22nd, so. If we're going to say, hey, everybody, let's do a public thing just out of optics and things like that for everybody to be seen, being sworn in. The timing may not exactly work, but would it be possible to have a work session with the new members and they're not sworn in? So that we've got the benefit of this group. The new people can come in, we're gonna have a new town administrator right on the 15th. So could the work session actually happen before the 22nd? Or do we wanna have them together on the same day for a specific reason?
We love marathon meetings and. Well, you know, I just didn't know, we could come with jammies and stuff like that.
No, it's not a rule that you have to have the work session on the same day.
Is it just that
Sure.
date that has a conflict?
I think
Or
that
is it
just
the time?
can't be at a meeting prior, like before 5 o'clock or something.
Okay.
So when I was talking to him about all getting sworn in together, then that was the only reason, like, it's not critical whatsoever. But so really what I'm throwing out are two things. What about the optics of having everybody sworn in at the same time, and does the work session have to happen at that time?
So can we start at 5? If he could be here at 5, can we do our work session then? I mean, this
We're
is
just gonna
like,
have to make it work.
it's gonna be the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We're at least-
We're not gonna be able to make
Yeah.
It's an ongoing.
Or can we
Yeah.
just get sworn in after the work session?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the public attending work sessions, and the board could determine at that work session, we're gonna allow the public, in this case, the new one.
Yeah, and that's up to you
To
guys, right?
participate, it's a work session.
It's a work
There's no
session,
voting.
yeah.
That's a good thing.
Okay,
We'll do it at 5
Perfect.
okay,
and not 1.
Actually, those optics look better, having the public in one of our work sessions.
Which I think is great.
Which I think is like this.
And if the new members are here at the beginning of the work session, you can swear them in. Then you address.
We're ready to start.
Yeah.
That's.
How this works.
Don't worry, don't worry.
okay. Let's have all part completely, okay.
John.
Jerry has a comment.
Procedurally,
Yeah, public at the work session and everybody gets sworn in and the whole.
procedurally, we might take motion directed, or to set a work session for the board at 5 PM on April the 22nd, and for the agenda for that work session to commence with the swearing in of the newly elected members.
Love it.
Don't move.
Okay. Thank you, okay, that was John Jennings that seconded it, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
That's at 5?
5 PM, yes.
You're kind of swear.
Okay. All right, and what about, do you need a motion for to go forth on the extension? Or that just?
Oh, no,
direction?
that's staff direction.
Okay,
And you'll see that draft in your packet next meeting.
okay, I'm just concerned that it gets to the sheriff's department and the county commissioners, they'll be meeting next week,
Yeah,
So-
I made a note to myself to draft it,
okay,
and it's, because it'll be simple, and to send it to Peter Lakeman, my opposite member with county
Yeah.
attorney. And, put him, make him aware of the timing constraints.
okay. Yeah, I don't know the deadline on.
It'd be great if the commissioners could just act on that extension, and they've already acted. From the 22nd, you can act and you're good.
Or it ends up, let me think, it would end up if it doesn't get to the commissioners until no, they don't have a meeting on the 29th. Cause they just meet on 1st and 3rd.
Oh, we'll do
So,
what we
yeah,
can.
yeah,
We'll do what we can,
yeah,
do what we can.
okay.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Okay, moving on, we have police judge and board of selectmen reports. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Greg so much for what he's done for us and helping us out of this difficult time. You've been great, wonderful to work with. Thanks, very much appreciated. Anybody have? He's gonna share.
I just want to make it part of the record. Ms. Lynette, Mr. John Jennings, I've learned so much from you, and this is your last regular meeting. You put in years of service. And I just want to say thank you and.
Well done.
What, you guys see that on your job?
I'm good. Okay.
Alrighty. Anyone else?
I agree.
Okay. Next, we have the clerk's report.
So we just had the election, things went very, very well. Looking back at past numbers, in the past, we had, in the most recent election, in the 2023 was the last time we had a municipal election, there were 136 voters. This year we had 183, so I think that's a substantial boost in participation that I think we can point to the mail-in option, probably being the cause for that boost. We have our results certified and those have been posted in the appropriate places. I sent a request to the newspapers that will also go in the newspaper on the next publication. We have it posted here, the post office, and I have alerted the candidates of the results. The election judges were wonderful. Thank you, Ellen Elliott, Ann Wilkins, and Kathleen Baker. They were such good sports. It was a long day because we ended up only getting 9 in-person votes and 2 of them were theirs. So. I definitely think mail-in was a success. There are learnings to take away from this experience, but I feel very supported by Jerry and Greg and Kasia and everyone here. And I think at the end of the day, we facilitated a fair election. The results were fair, the voting was fair. Well, everyone's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it for
Keisha, you would be next.
I don't have much to report to you guys right now. I am working on the utility bill pay presentation for you guys and we'll present to you next time unless you want to schedule a work session independently. Okay, we'll prepare a meeting then. I've been working with Q on getting him up to date on treasurer things and he's doing really well. So that's a lot of what we've been doing is making sure the election is okay and getting Dennis on board with his employee packets and just giving him and all of the technology things and so just trying to get everybody else in and working and functioning so that we're back on track. Thank you.
Thanks, Keisha.
Do you have anything you want to share with us, Q?
Yeah.
Don't want to leave you out. Okay, thanks. Greg.
I want to add some stuff that has come up in the last few days. In addition to what I had in the memo, I'm working on editing the employee handbook. And one of the questions that came up recently in staff meeting is we had an employee who requested to carry a concealed weapon. And I looked this up and there's a law, CRS 18-12-214. And it basically opens the door to any of that kind of stuff that people want to do unless the town wants to limit it. The town has the authority to put in limits on what people can carry on public property. So I just wanted to raise this issue to you. Right now, the amendment I have in there just refers to the state law. It doesn't say anything about any action that the board is taking because you haven't. It has not become an issue in the past. I talked to Lynette about it, and if it's something you want to address, I encourage you to do that before that.
This has got to be some issue that's definitely gone on, been presented to another municipality. Do you have any experience in that or?
Yeah, it's come up in a number of cities. Some cities have said, we hereby, Town Monument, for example, we hereby not only think it's a good idea, but encourage people, show up. And do public carry in our building. We are perfectly fine with that. It's, that's their perspective down there. There are other cities that say no public carry in board meetings, et cetera, for sort of obvious reasons. But they're as Greg points out, you have the right to set those rules for your public buildings and your public meetings, and you could slice and dice it and say, no public hearing and public meeting. Gosh, because we might feel a little intimidated, but in our public buildings, maybe okay. There's lots of gradations. And they're all kind of policy related and how you feel about it. There's no one really have to follow. You can set your rule. I will confess, I haven't looked at the statute lately to say what's the default rule out there. I believe the default is you can carry it. But I don't take that to the bank. This is an issue I was unaware of until 2 minutes ago. So, now I've told you everything that's in my head. If you ask me more questions, yeah, I'll be inventing the answers. And I don't want to-
What was the rationale for this employee carrying it out?
I don't know if he provided any
Okay.
rationale.
I just wanted to
He
check.
just wanted to do it.
Okay,
And right now, we do not have any language that says no. And state law does not have any language that says no. And that's, all I'm doing is bringing it to you as an issue. If you want to ask Gary to type up an ordinance, you can do that. If you don't want to address it, that's okay too. It's just something that I'm just sort of lazy.
might be an apricot thing.
Would it be an ordinance or is it a policy that the town would be,
If you're gonna do some restrictions, they would need to be by ordinance.
okay?
So, it's a much larger discussion than just,
Yeah,
here today.
yeah,
So I guess my suggestion, rather than us kind of trying to, on the spur of the moment, come up with stuff here, is if I think I would direct me to prepare a little memo for you that says, this is what's allowed now by default under the statute. Here's your buffet of choices, all the way from nothing, and go with statute to, restrict open carry or really encourage open carry. Much more than that, and once you have that in front of you, you can have maybe a more thoughtful discussion. That's the best we can do here, I would think, today.
Can I ask you a legal question? If you say, could the town say no, and then would the state law or whatever is in place right now supersede?
I'm not sure, that's why I told you, I have everything in my head, I've told you,
Okay,
and I'm inventing the answer.
no problem.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
Yeah, if you want me to come back with a description of the landscape here, I can do that.
I'd like to know what other municipalities are doing also, especially ones that are close to us. It seems we're not the first one to have to do it.
It's easy to collect that information, I see it on the attorney's list here, but I just haven't had to respond to a client for it.
so what position are we in until? Right, so right now,
He can.
it's just the revised statute
that's right.
that guides us until we change it.
That is right. That is right. Okay, I'm making a little list of my assignments, I'm up to 4 again.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah,
And then I want to apologize for the preliminary results of the election not being posted last evening. It was an oversight. We didn't realize that it was in state law. And it's something that goes on the list and will be corrected for the next time. They were posted at 11 o'clock this morning and then the canvas was done. And so the final vote tally was posted.
Before news.
Yeah, so not very long after that.
Afternoon.
Okay, yeah.
You signed off on them and we have them listed.
Okay,
I'm not comfortable with that, and I know we can't undo it. And we know we have watchdogs, and we know we have social media. And if everyone hasn't read their email, we have one that has outlined several concerns and not being aware of. To me, posting the election results is a significant part of the election. So to me, that opens the door as to what else was inadvertently overlooked that could come back. And we would be suffering the consequences of that. the board represents the town. We are the town. And though we did not have any direct involvement in the election, other than some candidates here in the room, it still comes back to us. And getting better at that, yes, I would hope that the learning curve is, you know, really jammed in here. But I don't know, do we need an audit of our election? You know, I made a joke earlier, do we call in Jenna Griswold? Because I'm sorry, it could come to that, because I don't know now. And that is, to me, that's such an obvious error. So I'm not comfortable with what may be further coming down the line, and I think we better be prepared for that. We better be prepared for questions. And I don't want it to impact how we continue to operate or who gets sworn in, or, because I don't know. And I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
Or you give people a reason to doubt, one little doubt, and then where's it gonna go from there? That's what we've been dealing with for me for 2 years now.
Mhm.
Every time we miss one little thing, it turns into something huge.
Well, it shows we're human, we make mistakes.
But we can't keep making mistakes.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's okay, beg forgiveness.
No, I'm
That
not, I
doesn't.
didn't say that, I just said we made a mistake.
A huge mistake. How do you not post election results?
Well, didn't the judges know that? Isn't
I
that
don't know.
not
I
part of the
wasn't responsible
judges?
for that. I don't know.
But it still comes back to us, they're gonna hold.
I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm just saying, you know, why wouldn't,
No more excuses, that's where I'm going with this, we can't keep having excuses to why we can't get it right.
I would rather go back over the process in painful detail, not us, but have that done by whom, I don't know, to make sure that everything else was done correctly. If there were errors, you need to report certain things, you know, I want us to make sure that all the i's are dotted, the t's are crossed. Failing to post election results in a timely fashion, and to me, 15 hours after the polls close ain't timely. Even if it was a rolling result, and we didn't have all of them in for some reason, you know. And personally, I'm unhappy the fact that it was posted on our website that, oh yeah, you can come by and check at town hall and see what the results are. Come on, people, this is 2025.
Well, and I think the thing about it too, I mean, this is one thing that we know of, what do we not know of that we missed? Like, that's more.
Well, that's
another
the
concern.
point.
That's what she's trying to
That's
get
my
at.
concern.
That's-
Yeah, but I'm
And
backing that up too.
Okay,
So I guess I would just like
Okay.
staff to find out how we could further, you know, do an internal investigation on ourselves and to make sure that the process was actually done, that everything else was done correctly. Like I say, we can't push the time clock back. So, but let's make sure that everything else was done correctly.
so, and if I'm not mistaken, there's probably another deadline or some kind of reporting for, campaign expense that still is out there that needs to be met, isn't that?
That's all put onto the Tracer website through the state.
Okay,
So that's public record that the candidates themselves are responsible for.
Okay. so we're not, as, you know, there's, in terms of the whole election and all of the filing, we're still actually not fully done, but I agree that an internal investigation, just to make sure that we didn't miss something.
No,
And I don't know if it's the county that can oversee that, if it's someone from the state, whomever, I think we need to identify that and go through our process. And
Just
and
making
make sure.
Okay.
I was wondering why we didn't get it as a regular ballot, like we always get, instead of the type of ballot that we filled out.
that's what I got, that's what I handed.
Because of the normal ballot, like we get normally when elections are done, if you just fill in the little dot with a black pen, you don't have the thing where you put an X next to the.
Actually,
That requires using the software that the county has,
to read it,
and the cost of their election is
$25,000.
$25,000.
Cause they use an electronic
So-
reader.
So we could do
These
that,
are the
but
ballots that we've used in years past.
Yeah.
I used the same ballot, inserted new names that we've
Yeah.
used for municipal elections in the
That would
past.
explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And I have a quick question.
Okay.
So Richard, you said that hundred and eighty-three votes came in, and on the abstract, there was a total of 176. So where are those other votes?
The difference there was some people only voted for police judge, voted for both, police judge and selectmen, or only voted for selectmen. In terms of the total number of ballots that we counted, there were 183, but that didn't necessarily translate to the number of votes per, or for the police judge. The police judge was on every ballot, but some people didn't vote for police judge.
Sure, right. So there were 183 ballots that came in, and then 160 something were for police judge and 176 were for the selectmen.
So, no, there were 183 ballots that came in. Every single one of those ballots had, a vote for the police judge. And then depending on the ward you were in, you voted for one selectman. So if you're in Ward 1, you were voting for Amanda,
Right,
Ward 2, so on and so forth.
right.
So of those 183, I believe Mike Huggins, Mike Huggins got 12 and you got 151. That was 163 people total voted for police judge.
Right.
That would mean that 21 people only voted for the selected and didn't vote for a police judge. Does that make sense?
It does, but then the selectmen tally on that abstract is 176.
Because some people also only voted for a police judge and didn't vote for their selection.
Okay,
So we counted the number of ballots.
yeah,
And
no,
then-
I'm not down
and
here
it
at all.
matches the-
My brain isn't doing the math.
We have, it matches the number in the poll book in terms of the number of ballots that we received and have in the poll book is 183. But some people only voted for police judge and some people only voted for their selection.
Okay,
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
thanks. And thank you, Rick. Anything more?
yeah,
You do.
yeah, so. Georgia has asked about being provided a cell phone or something along those lines. We checked into it and we provide a cell phone for one member of the staff, but nobody else. And I think it's better to work up a policy, and I tried to work that into the employee handbook. We can get a government discount for cell phones, which is considerably less than it costs for you to go to one of the companies and buy it. So I just suggest that you think about including, if you want to provide a cell phone, I don't think it's right to provide one for one member of the staff and not the other members of the staff. I think you avoid. Well, staff too. We are providing it for one member of our staff,
Okay,
but nobody else. And it's not right that one person has that benefit and people don't have that benefit. So just something to think about. And then also the policy does not mention meal reimbursements. It kind of sort of does, it just mentions reimbursements. And the way that I've done those in the past is divide the day by what's called quartiles. And I can't tell you why they're called quartiles because there's 3 of them. And it happens every year. But what happens is the first quartile is breakfast, the second is lunch, the third is dinner. I'm guessing the fourth one is just already, but I don't know for sure.
Isn't there a state per diem that from an employee, a regular employee point of view, we have somewhat,
There's actually a per diem that's put out by Government Services Administration, GSA. The per diem for most of Colorado is $68 a day. And you should decide whether you want to deal with this kind of thing in terms of a per diem or setting a hard dollar amount for what you want to do for meal reimbursements, or setting a per diem up to, or setting a hard dollar amount up to the per diem. You can do that too. So there's lots of options that are available to you. I did work out what the percent is for each of the meals, if someone has just gone for one meal. So it says if they leave before 7 o'clock in the morning and they return before 10, that's first quartile, so they are eligible for reimbursement for breakfast, and it does that for the other meals too. If they're gone all day, they get the whole 68,000 or whatever you set it at. But I think it's good to have policy that describes how you are willing to reimburse these things.
Like the cell phone thing, we had to deal with that with 300 employees. So we had folks that had any kind of administrative responsibility. They were just given a stipend of so much per month to help pay for their cell phone.
And what we talked
Cell
about
phone
is
service.
either writing a cell phone or a stipend.
Yeah.
So it ends up the cost being the same to the town. So it's not, no one's getting an advantage out of this, but if you have employees that are making calls in their personal cell phone all the time or accepting phone calls, and then we have somebody else who's using a town paid account, that doesn't feel right. So just something to think about.
It needs to be consistent. one way or
Yeah,
another.
that's all I do. And then our prosecutor stopped in 2 weeks ago, something like that. And he was just driving through town and he wanted to visit. He was wondering what the future of the municipal court is. He said that he serves either as a prosecutor or a judge in various different jurisdictions around this area. And he said in the towns that he serves as the judge, the ones that are contracting with a county sheriff, ordinarily what the municipal court does is deal with nuisance type issues. So property codes, those kind of things, where the town feels like it has to take action about somebody not doing something, and that gives you the venue to do that. So just something to think about. He said that generally in other towns he serves in, that means they meet about 2 or 3 times a year. It's not a thing that comes up constantly. But he wants the town to give him some direction, because he said if there's nothing happening in the near future, he's going to obligate himself to what the day is for municipal court here. So he just wanted to give the same example.
Maybe that can be something that we can kind
Work
of
session.
keep with when we're talking to the police department too, how that's gonna go through.
Yeah, if you reestablish the police department, then municipal court just gets reestablished.
Well, or, with the direction of the town, the sheriff's office will know.
And then, I don't know how many of you attend the district CML meetings, those are valuable for elected officials, you get to meet people in the area. Our meeting here will be in Brighton on May 3rd, so if you want to attend it, I urge you to do so. And then I just put in here about the IDA for sheriff services, and nothing about the employee handbook update. I've got quite a few changes that are in there. I made some more changes today, so the copy I gave you is not accurate.
It's obsolete already.
So I can surely hand out additional copies or email about you if you want to see them. But I think it's just like every policy the town has or is looking at developing, always look at them as they're made to be changed. They're not made to stay exactly the same forever. So as you put them into effect, you just need to be always cognizant that you're going to run into issues that aren't being addressed or you missed or something like that, or the whole situation has changed. That worked at one point, it doesn't work now. And that you just have to be open to looking at changes to these policies in the future. I've been working on a pay study. I used the same thing that Rick did when he did it. It's a survey that CML puts out every 2 years. And we still need to find some comparables. I tried to use the towns that he named in his. And I've added several of them to it in order to get more comparables. But there's some of the positions that just don't have a comparable. massage that and come up with it based on what ones I could find. So I'll share that with Dennis too, and I just wanted to say I really enjoyed working for the town of Georgetown, so thank you for this opportunity.
Spread that around.
Thanks for being.
Oh, and I put this in the packet, we met with the developer a week ago, and this is something he's recommending as a solution to the affordable housing requirement in the development. And it's working with the Elevation Community Land Trust, and all they do is this type of issue. So these affordable housing developments and helping people to get into these units by providing a subsidy to buy down the cost. So this seems like a real reasonable way to address this issue, and I just wanted to make sure you had a copy of it in case you wanted to look at it a little more. That's it.
Okay. Okay. If we don't have anything further, then we got the. You did, okay.
Rob's got the mic.
I move to go into an executive session under CRS 248402 for the conference with the town attorney, interim town administrator, and appropriate staff, and invited persons to receive legal advice on the McHugh Gas Lines versus Town of Georgetown litigation and the capital prize mine litigation. I further move to adjourn this meeting at the conclusion of this executive session.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
5 minutes.